We've just found heaps of fresh deer sign. We can tell that it's fresh because it rained last night and none of these prints have been rained on. They're all nice sharp prints, and where there's bits of dirt it's nice and fluffy, so we know it hasn't been dampened down by the rain. The wind's perfect, it's coming down the creek, so we're just going to keep on sneaking up here through the bush. I'm really hoping we can track down a nice mature stag today, because they're just really fat at this time of year in the bush, so it's a perfect time to harvest one. So yeah, anyway, that's what this video is going to be about. Harvesting some wild meat to take out of the bush and put in our freezer at home to feed our family. So yeah, we'll get into it. Sweet. I can actually smell deer now quite strongly. So I'm just going to sit down and yeah, just wait for a bit, see if we can hear anything. Oh man, that spiker just about walked right into us. Came walking along this track here. He was about there. I heard him walking around over there, and we turned on our camera. We've got a little camera mounted on the gun scope now. He heard us. He was about here, I think. Turned around, bolted through there, and he just went up the hill, and just through a gap in the trees right there, he stopped. I made a little funny noise. We managed to get a shot into his shoulder. So hopefully we've got some meat to take home now. I'm just going to sit down for 5 minutes, just give him time to relax and bleed out if he hasn't already. I did hear him stop just around the hill, so I'm pretty sure he's down, but always good to give them a little bit of time. Okay, so it's been 5 minutes, so we're going to go and have a look. Just saw some more deer, hind and a fawn. They were coming down the same track as the spiker came down. It's pretty weird because we don't have a suppressor on our rifle, so it's pretty loud. Need to get one, but haven't got one yet. So yeah, it's pretty loud, and usually it scares all the deer away once you fire it. But they were actually quite relaxed. They were just cruising down the track, so maybe they were down in the creek or something when we shot. It's all go this morning. We've only been walking for about an hour. Seen 3 deer and shot 1. Doesn't usually happen quite that easily. So yeah, he was standing up there when we shot him, and there's a bit of a crash mark coming down here. Knocked over that kawa, and that's our first bit of blood. There's quite a bit of it here. There's a bit more down here by the looks. It's a nice print. We're only about 5 metres from where we shot him, so it's a good sign. I don't imagine he's gone much further. Heaps of blood on this fern here. Just trying to work out which way he's gone from here. Can't see any blood down there. Have a look up there. Oh, yep. Can see a heap on that kawa. Oh, there he is there. Sweet. So he ran about 40 metres from where we had shot him. Would have only taken him about 2 seconds to run from there to here, so that's the perfect outcome. Good little safety tip that I've learned the hard way is when you're doing something like trying to crack knuckles or just moving a deer around, pays to put your knife down or put it in your sheath, because otherwise you might slip, and if you've got your knife in your hand you might cut yourself obviously. So yeah, quite easy to forget to put your knife down or put it in your sheath, but it's a good habit to get into because it is pretty easy to end up cutting yourself. Sweet as. So we've got some of the liver here from the deer that we shot. The organ meat from most animals is best to eat first, I think. And yeah, out of all the organ meats, liver is probably the best. It's one of the most nutrient dense foods in the world. And a lot of people like the thought of eating it, but they don't like the taste. So personally, I don't mind the taste. I'll happily eat it raw, but a lot of people find that flavour a little bit strong. So we're going to do a recipe here that most people will enjoy. So yeah, we're going to make some pate. So yeah, the first thing we're going to do is just fry up some onion with some deer fat, some herbs in there too, just whatever you got lying around the garden or in the cupboard. We've got some oregano, got some rosemary growing outside, so chuck a bit of that in too. Also a bit of ginger and a few generous teaspoons of garlic, chuck that in there too. And then yeah, this is one of the secret ingredients to making it taste good to people who don't like the taste of liver. Chuck some bacon pieces in there, fry them up with all that other stuff. And then yeah, once we've got the bacon cooked down, there's a bit of bacon grease in the pan, then we'll chop up our liver, just slice it up pretty thin, just chuck it in the pan. You want to be cooking it sort of like you cook rear steak, so you still want it pink in the middle. Then I'll just chuck a bit of soy sauce in there, and then some cheap red wine to make sort of a gravy sauce, and then just let that sort of render down into a nice gravy. And then you're pretty much done. Just pour it all into a blender or a food processor. It helps if you pour it in when it's still nice and hot, so you don't want to wait for it to cool down, because then it's not going to blend up as smoothly. And yeah, you can either blend it up just like this, or another little trick to make it extra creamy is you just add some cream. So yeah, half a cup or a cup of cream in there, and then give it a whiz and you're good to go. So it'll be a bit more runny while it's warm, but once you chuck it in the fridge for an hour or so, that fat will set and it'll just be a nice firm dip, just like the pate you get in the shop. Or you can just smash it back when it's still warm like we did. Yeah, makes a really good dip with crackers and chips, stuff like that. And yeah, it's pretty cool because it doesn't just taste good, you also know you're getting something that's got heaps of vitamins and minerals in it with the liver. Sweet. So we've had a bit of rain since we shot that last deer, and the creeks have come up a bit. The bush is nice and wet on the ground, so it makes for nice quiet stalking. So yeah, we're going to do a bit more bush stalking. Hopefully we can pick up deer number 2. It's also a good chance of a long range shot as well. There's a few slips around here, and it's the first fine day for a while, so the deer are likely to be out trying to sun themselves. They'll be sick of the rain just like we are, so yeah, we'll see how we go. Sweet. Oh sweet, looks like we might have had some success. We've been walking for about 4 or 5 hours and hadn't laid eyes on a deer yet. We have spooked a few though. It's just quite thick bush where we've been hunting, and yeah, we've just been coming up to them in the wrong places, and they've been spooking. But yeah, haven't been seeing them, just been hearing them. And then we came up over this brow here and looked across, and there was a stag bedded down in the middle of a little slip. The wind was terrible, it was going straight from us to him, so didn't think we had a lot of time. I was really wanting a rest because it's about 100 metres, but there wasn't an easy rest to find, so I just did it freehand. It felt good, so I just pulled the trigger, and I think we've got him. Yeah, the way he ran off, he ran sort of like a death run down the hill, and I just heard him crash and then stop. So he's probably dead in the creek, fingers crossed. Oh, there's our stag. Beautiful animal. It's actually got quite thick antlers. Just about to start stripping the velvet off. So he should be in prime condition. He looks like he is. And this stag's actually bigger than I thought. It was hard enough dragging him out of the creek to get him. Certainly wouldn't want to be carrying this one out whole, I don't think. Stag testicles actually taste pretty good, and they're nice and easy to harvest too. You just cut the sack off, you can just pull them out, easy as. Chuck the sack away. And yeah, I've found the best way to cook them is just slice them up with a bit of butter and garlic, and they taste sort of like scallops. really mild flavour, nice and tender. Yeah, just beautiful. So yeah, if you haven't already, you may as well give these a go if you're a hunter. They're actually pretty good, trust me. Sweet, so we've got all the meat hanging up now, ready to cool down. The meat on these legs I'm going to take off, but it's just easier to bone it out, I find, when it's hanging up. I got a little bit excited. He's not quite as fat as I initially assumed he would be. He does have a bit of fat on his rump, but not as much as he'd have in another month, but still in prime condition for a bush stag. He'll be beautiful eating. I won't bore you too much with the butchery. I've already done videos on that, so if you haven't seen those, check out some of the other meat hunting videos. They've got a bit more on the process of breaking down the animal. A few of you guys have been asking about the bare feet and why I wear bare feet in the bush and what my thoughts are on shoes and stuff like that, and boots. And yeah, the main reason I like wearing bare feet when I'm hunting is just because they're quiet. It's easier to sneak around when you're in bare feet, and it also slows you down. I'm one of those people who like to tear through the bush, and sometimes I forget to slow down, so wearing bare feet helps force me to slow down, because you just have to go slower when you're wearing bare feet, and you have to be a bit more careful about where you step. And yeah, it's also just way quieter walking in bare feet. Our feet are like these massive pads, they're super soft, and they're pretty much designed to be super stealth when you're walking through the bush. And yeah, another reason I like wearing bare feet or minimal shoes is I've had a lot of injuries over the years from possum trapping and stuff like that. And I used to wear boots. I used to wear lace-up gumboots, bulla boots, and then I wore these real flash boots for about a year. I think they were like $800, and I had custom orthotics put in them because I had bad ankles, and I wore them for about a year, and they were really good for a few months, but I found when I wore them constantly working in the bush, they ended up causing me more problems than they solved. They sort of seemed to make my ankles really weak, and my theory on that, and there's a bit of science behind it, is that the more support you give your foot, the weaker it's going to become. You know, you're pretty much putting it in a cast, and our feet are designed to be free and move around. Yeah, we tend to think that we know better and we can put a wedge in and that'll be better than, you know, a million years of evolution. But yeah, I've certainly found since switching to minimal shoes and bare feet as much as I can, I've actually pretty much wiped out my injury problems. I don't really have ankle issues anymore. So yeah, if you're thinking of changing from shoes or boots to bare feet, it's definitely a good idea, I reckon, but you want to make sure you do it slowly. So don't go jumping into like a 20k walk with bare feet the first time you try it. Just do it gradually. So yeah, anyway, that's the barefoot thing. I better get to packing this meat into our bag and we'll lug it out of the bush. Sweet. Sweet, so we're back home now and we've got all the boned out meat in the fridge in these black rubbish bags, and we're just going to leave it in here for about 4 or 5 days to wet age it, just to let that steak get nice and tender, and then yeah, we'll take it out, mince up the mincing cuts And yeah, steak should be nice and tender on this one as well. It was pretty low stress and it was in real good nick, so heaps of meat that'll keep us going for quite a long time. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks heaps for watching. We'll see you next time. Cheers.